Welcome to part 3 of the video. And in this video, we would be covering what all issues the traders are facing when it comes to the actual bond trading. I repeat, the actual bond trading. If I speak about any bank in the world, whether this bank is Goldman Sachs, Citibank, JP Morgan Chase, Morgan Stanley, Wells Fargo, Deutsche, Commerce Bank, UBS, ANZ, Wells ANZ, National Australian Bank, Westpac, or any other bank, they have either a prop desk, which means a proprietary desk, where they trade their own money, or they have a client desk where they are trading the client money. Some of the banks in the world, because the list is very comprehensive, but some of the banks in the world have both. They have proprietary as well as the client money, which means that they take position using their own money and they take position using the client's money. Now, I would like to take once again the note from this book to explain you that this is a reality. This book, which is by Bloomberg. Although I again challenge this book that there are many things in the books which are not written, because now I reached to the page number 90, and when I shot the first video pertaining to this book, I was at page number 41. So soon I would have one more video. Page number 83. Borrowing rates historically tend to rise in days around the end of each quarter as the bank hoard cash in an attempt to window dress their financial result. Banks hoard cash in an attempt to window dress their financial results. It was a quick off the market that some traders didn't factor into their models. Early enough, Haynes thought of it as a easy money and had 2 million riding on every basis point. 2 million riding on every basis point. Page number 83, Bloomberg. The traders who trade for the bank, big banks, they take FICC, fixed income, currency and commodities. I will not discuss currency and commodities, but in fixed income, they take predominant position in bonds, which includes the treasury bonds, investment grade bonds, non-investment grade bonds, the corporate bonds, bonds with some little bit issues pertaining to credit rating, and many more type of bonds. But the biggest point is the valuation of the bonds, basically the positions which they are taking, are not backed up by the theory which is provided in the CFA book. The valuation of the bond is dependent on the factors like the credit risk. It depends on the quantitative easing by the central bank. So I again take an example on this book. But by 26th June, his plan was airy. Central banks were flooding the system with the cheap money, and Haynes was swimming against a tsunami of cash that was dragging the benchmarks. And as we all know that central banks are flooding the system with a huge amount of cash. Why they are flooding, we knew the reason, and the evidence is this report. Janus Henderson Sovereign Bond Index. I have shown this report last time also. It is clear evident that in page number 2, this report is clearly mentioning that by end of 2020, the central banks, basically the governments, holding a debt to the tune of 62.5 trillion. I repeat, 62.5 trillion. You can see the Janus Henderson. If you go to page number 11, which seems to be my favorite page, it is clearly mentioning that central banks are issuing the debt on behalf of the government. For US, it is 85%. For UK, it is 66%. For Bank of Japan, it is 33%. Now, when it comes to the bond pricing, the theoretical bond pricing computation by CFA Institute, Certified Financial Analyst. Please don't treat this as a charter financial analyst. By Certified Financial Analyst is completely incorrect, because the bond pricing comes from OAS, option adjusted spread. It depends upon QSD, quality spread differential. It comes from the CDS risk, credit default swap. It comes from the sovereign credit risk of that particular country. So example, if today Sri Lankan government, which is a reality, is facing some issues, rather multiple issues on a credit front, then the companies who issued the bonds in the Sri Lankan domestic market and subsequently subscribed by the Sri Lankan nationals, or maybe institutional investors, or maybe some other people, they also facing the heat, because the collapse of the bonds by Sri Lankan government means the CDS, the credit spread or quality spread differential impact on these bonds also. Then how CFA Institute, that is the biggest stupidity of the life, how CFA Institute in his level 1 book can mention that the bond pricing is based on a yield which change on a tick. And what the hell is tick? It is nanosecond, which is many times of a second, fraction of a second. If you have Reuters, if you have Bloomberg, you would get to know it changes at nanosecond. Now, the biggest regret of the life is, I repeat, the regret of the life is millions of students worldwide spare millions of dollars on the CFA degree. And they believe that the bond pricing is done in a way as mentioned in a CFA level 1 book, versus the reality we mentioned here, versus the reality we mentioned at the Janus Henderson. Bond pricing is completely different of what you are thinking. This is something we need to understand. This is part 3. See you in the part 4 of the video.